One of the hardest things for a lot of moms is reaching that due date, that date that we've been so focused on for months and months and months, which is one reason why I actually recommend moms just like looking at their due time, like I'm due the end of June or like mid-June instead of that one day, which I was not good at. I was so focused on June 19th, June 19th, June 19th, that and for me, after June 19th, I became obsessed with naturally inducing. And so I don't recommend that you do that. Taryn's going to talk in a little bit about patience and how that patience and that trust can really support you in actually going into labor. But if you get into a situation where your medical care provider is saying that, there's like a medical reason why we might want to start kind of speeding this along or encouraging it. In certain situations, if it's more serious, something like Pitocin medication might be the only option. But in a lot of cases, you can try different natural ways to encourage your labor to start. And in most of these situations, it's not going to start labor unless your baby is already ready and just needs a little extra kickstart. So a few of those things are sex. There's a hormone-like substance in your partner's semen called prostaglandins. And these help to ripen your cervix. So if the issue is that your cervix is just a little bit stuck and needs some motivation, that semen can actually help to ripen it up. I think that's a really great word for your cervix. You just want a nice, ripe cervix. The next thing is spicy food. Spicy foods can kind of stimulate our bowels, right? And it can do the same thing for our uterus. If your bowels are starting to move around, they're acting up a bit, your uterus can almost get tricked into thinking, oh, okay, like maybe it's time. And that's something that happened to me. That's also one reason why when a woman is getting near to her birth time, sometimes she does have some diarrhea or feel like she's going to, and just there's a lot of stuff happening and moving around. So you can kind of kickstart that by having some spicy foods. Don't hurt yourself. Don't overdo it. If spicy foods make you sick at all, or you just really don't enjoy them, don't torture yourself. It is absolutely not worth it. The next thing is dates. There have been a lot of recent studies about how effective eating a date is to help to ripen that cervix, to, in some cases, cause a shorter labor. It helps to minimize your chances of needing artificial induction if that's something that you don't want. And so one study showed that women that had one date every day for the duration of their pregnancy had that riper cervix, a shorter labor, less need for artificial induction. If you don't want to have a date a day, you can also just load up the last 4 weeks of your pregnancy and have maybe 5 or 6 dates a day and spread them out throughout the day so you don't get this huge hit of sugar. If you loathe dates, again, you don't have to force yourself to do this, but it can help. Something else is nipple stimulation. Nipple stimulation can help to release oxytocin in your body, and oxytocin is what signals your body to kickstart labor. Just having some nipple stimulation does in no way guarantee that you're going to go into labor. A little bit of oxytocin doesn't necessarily do it, but it can just start that process. So nipple stimulation, that can also be a really nice one if your labor slows as you're going through the phases. Have some nipple stimulation, make out with your partner a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily recommend having sex when you're in labor, but you can do all the other stuff. And if you are really getting anxious about the fact that you're not going into labor, that stress can actually impede the onset of labor, which I know is really frustrating. So if you feel that inside of you when you're getting near your due date, if you're past that due date, if you're feeling that stress, if you're feeling tense, do things to help you de-stress, to loosen up, to relax. That can be meditation, hypnosis, journaling, a walk, doing art. I mean, anything that you need to do to de-stress, do that. And if, again, you've had that go ahead from your care provider to do what you need to do to kickstart labor, you can try things like acupressure, acupuncture. You can visit a chiropractor. Make sure that you visit a specialist who knows how to work with pregnant women, specifically with the induction of labor. Ask your care provider. They probably have some recommendations. And the last thing, just trust your baby. Trust that baby is going to send the signal that he or she is ready to come on out when they're ready.
That time period around your due time and past your due date, if you're following your due date, can be really stressful and can be there can be a lot of expectation around you. There are a lot of people that ask you if you've had your baby yet, and they seem to ask all the time, and your answer is like, well, I will tell you when I have my baby. But you get that a lot. It's a thing that happens, and it happens over and over again, and it can be very, very stressful for women. It can also be stressful if you have a friend who's pregnant at the same time as you, and she goes into labor before you, and all of a sudden you feel like, what's wrong with me? Why haven't I gone into labor?
Right.
So there's a lot of different stresses that do come, and there's just the anticipation and the expectation of your own self to be going into labor and really like wanting to get there and wanting this baby to come out, and you're pregnant and you're, sometimes you're uncomfortable at that phase, and there's a million reasons that contribute to really, really wanting the labor to start. At the same time, you want to trust your body, and it is a hard thing to do, but you want to trust your body because that's what you're about to go into. You're about to go into an experience where you're going to have to trust yourself and your body in a way that you've never had to before. So this is a really good time to start paying attention to that and start practicing that. When you're waiting to go into labor and you feel like nothing is happening and you're telling yourself, why isn't this happening yet? Why isn't this happening yet? The actual reality is that so much is happening in your body at this time. Right. You are doing so much work internally to prepare yourself for labor. All of those different things that you do to induce labor can actually just really help with labor itself. Even if it doesn't make labor come on early, it can help with the labor itself. You're going through pre-labor during this time, most likely. And so your body is really doing a lot of work ahead of time before you get into the real labor, the real deal labor. Your body is getting itself ready, and it's going to lessen the impact on you during labor itself. So trusting that your body is doing what it needs to do. Your baby is in there for as long as it needs to be in there. It's supposed to be in there. Everything is fine. You're safe. You're good. It can be a really, really powerful time to practice surrender and to practice that vulnerability, that powerful vulnerability to a process that is bigger than the version of ourselves we think that we are. It's something that is so much more than we've ever really tapped into. And so this is the first time that we get to really access that. We really get to say, you know what? This is not in my control. And this is something that I am fully participating in and something that I am a part of. It's not something that's happening to me, but it's like embracing your inner self on a whole other level. It's like saying this huge process that is bigger than me is also me, and I'm going to sit with it and sit in it, and I'm going to allow this to happen the way it's supposed to happen instead of trying to force it to be something that it's not. You're accepting the process that you're in. You're accepting this time period. You're also therefore allowed to sit and enjoy some of the quiet that comes before labor, the quiet that comes before the newborn. Yeah. The time period that is a really special, sacred time period, even though you feel that pressure. And feeling that pressure and feeling those expectations doesn't negate the sacredness of it. It's like working with it allows you to really sit in that sacred time and really say, like, here it is, here I am having to work with all of these different emotions that are coming up, having to work with deflecting the comments coming to me, having to go within my own cocoon and allowing myself just to start feeling safe within myself and start myself in this process. So that when labor comes, you are ready to move into it. You can accept that moment a little bit more. You have been one with the process leading up to it.